Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Well, happy Thursday to you. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Yeah, don't adjust your television screen or at least your Facebook screen here. Seth Harp on Sports. Yeah, I do have a little goatee now and my hair's a mess. Brent Beaird waiting in the wings as we get this party started on this Thursday. Of course, PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. You want to be a part of the show? Part of the shindig? Got a question for Brent? Got a question for myself? Easy enough. Facebook, courtesy of Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube questions, courtesy of Quality Plumbing. Quality Plumbing, residential, commercial plumbing, and emergency repair since 1984. Their name says it all. Fire away via the text line as well, courtesy of Titan MRI. That's 352-353-7465. Well, we can officially say it as of today. We are less than a month away from the start of the college football season with Georgia Tech and Florida State kicking off in Dublin. So we are a month away or less than a month away. Of course, the Gators starting August 31st as they take on the Miami Hurricanes in the Swamp. I just signed the deal today to make sure that following that game on WRUF ESPN Gainesville will carry the Texas A&M Notre Dame game. So a little programming note that you know before anybody else does. Brent Beaird, our college football insider, pretty much the guy that's got his fingers on the pulse of everything going on. He's got his list, his checklist of things that he wants to get to. SEC Media Days, of course, as everybody knows, in the rearview mirror. Brent, I am shocked. I am. And I don't use that term. I don't like to use hyperbole too much, but I am shocked. As much as Greg Sankey in this conference has been the innovator when it comes to expansion, first college championship game, at least in a conference, pushing the boundaries when they added, Missouri and when they added Texas A&M, adding Texas and Oklahoma, the big contract that they did to get off, what was it, Raycom or Jefferson Pilot and go to ESPN Plus. How on earth does this conference not have a tiebreaker for its conference championship games? What are they going to do, Brett? If two teams are 10-2, they haven't played each other. How are they going to determine who's going to end up in this thing? I'm shocked that we're 4 months away or 4.5 months away from an SEC championship game. We don't know how they're going to determine who's going yet.
Well, they are working on it, Seth. Good morning. Great to have you help us today. I'll answer it like this. If the tiebreaker was a revenue stream, it would have already been done.
Okay.
But it frankly is not. But what they're going to do is they're going to have 8 steps to determine who the participants are going to be in the SEC championship game. Now imagine that, Seth, if you got to get to step 8. Which might be it may be a coin flip by the time you get to there. So, and listen, here's what really changes this is because of we're getting rid of the divisions. We've got a 12-team playoff. Right? 4 SEC teams or more may end up in the playoff. So, frankly, Seth, the reality of this now is if you don't get in the SEC championship game, I'm not going to say that it really doesn't matter, but you can still get to the playoffs, and frankly, that's all that matters.
I think you and I may have discussed this last fall. Maybe we didn't, but I think it serves merit that going to the conference championship game and losing is a punishment. And
yes,
a school like, let's face it, like last year, Brent, you and I both know Ole Miss would have benefited from not going.
No question.
The layout. If Alabama would have lost to Georgia, they may have been on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
There's going to be a situation like that where you're going to have, and it may not be in the SEC because the conferences have gotten so big, and like you just said, it may not matter. Only that conference champions preferential treatment when it comes to those top 4 seeds in the bye. I just look at it from a perspective. If I am, Brent, if it's the end of the year and you have 11-1 Texas, 11-1 Georgia, and 10-2 Alabama, and let's just say for argument's sake, 10-2 Oklahoma. If I'm Oklahoma and I'm Alabama, I look around and go, "We're in. We don't want to play in this thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah." So it's going to be interesting to see if they weigh playing in a conference championship game and losing, how much they punish those teams. It is high risk, low reward.
Well, I think the winner basically would be a seed. Higher is what it amounts to. The thing they don't want that you and I have talked about before is, let's just pretend here, they don't want, say, the undefeated Georgia somehow get upset by a Western Division. I'm being facetious here, but you'll get it. A Arkansas team that's 8-4, right? That's what they don't want. Would be a horrible situation like that. But then you may have had that before, and they were lucky they didn't really have that before with only 4. But now with 12, without belaboring the point too much here, this will make it a lot easier to keep any scenario like that from happening.
We do know at this time that, the Big Ten's having theirs, the ACC, just completed their SEC media days as well. And, as these schools and conferences get rid of their divisions, one thing that we do know, Brett, right, that 9 games is a reality for the Big Ten in the conference.
Well, yes.
We know ACC as well. The Pac-12's gone. The Big 12 going to get to 9, going to be at 9 as well. And we know that a year from now that the SEC is going to be making that decision whether or not they are going from 8 to 9. Right, more revenue, better TV games. I'm trying to find a scenario in which you wouldn't do it, because I'm trying to think how it hurts the conference wins and losses. That made a difference, Brent, when you only had 2 teams or 4 teams that could make the playoffs. Now that you're to 12, a 9-3 SEC team's got as just much clout as a 10-2 Big 12 team. So I'm trying to figure out why the SEC wouldn't want Ole Miss and South Carolina as opposed to Ole Miss and Jackson State.
Well, they've been split on it for a while. I think about half the league wanted it to go to 9. The other half did not go to 9. Some of them, I think the argument was if you play another game and you lose, it may keep you out of the SEC championship game. Well, that's not your real argument right now. Now, the more amusing thing about about this article on the possible 9th game is this sentence: those programs at first against adding a 9th conference game are more interested now in doing so. According to several administrators, it's a way to enhance schedules with better matchups and generate more cash through ticket sales as well as the television contract. So what has happened here is the ADs and administrators have looked around, and I hate to say this about everything we talk about, but it's just the reality of it right now, and they're seeing this is another easy way to generate money. So if we can do that and have 9 games, let's look at it again. What this means is they're going to bring it up next year in the beginning of the year, and it will probably pass. Now, how soon they go to 9, we don't know. Now, let's just say they vote on it next year in Destin. It obviously would not go into effect to probably 2026. But Seth, it's pretty easy to read between the lines here.
Yeah.
This is just another way to fill the coffers, is what it amounts to.
And I've got Brent. They need to invite you and me. We'll go, and we'll explain to them that not only can you add the 9th game, but now that TNT has lost out in the bidding on TBS for the NBA, they've got $1 billion laying around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's add a Monday night SEC football kickoff at 6:30.
Yeah.
And there's your 9th game, boys. And you get SEC football Monday night, 6:30. It comes on 2.5 hours before the NFL. And we are all set, baby. We are all set. We get an extra game. We get a Monday night SEC football game, Brett. TNT's got $1 billion. I don't know if it'll be $1 billion a year, but I do know this. I do know that every SEC school, including those Florida Gators, would be more than happy with an extra $15 to $20 million a year.
Well, and look, you brought up something that I've heard more about over the last few weeks than ever is that it's like Florida State this year has, I believe it's 3 games that are not on a Saturday. Now, we've got playoff games, remember, this year when it starts, that are not on a Saturday. So to your point, and maybe somebody driving around on 75 listening to this thinking how silly that would be. Well, it actually is not, because the reality is, as Seth said, that is inventory for some of these networks, and who would not want to have a SEC game during the week? Now, look, we're not saying there are going to be a bunch of them, but we are going to see some different scheduling, aren't we, Seth?
Yeah.
And we've almost got to, in order to get all of this in, and it's not always going to happen on a Saturday.
Yeah, and it's the minute it became a playoff, the minute the BCS kicked in, the days of we play only on Saturday and that's it, those days are over. And
they are.
You and I both know that Sundays have always been reserved for the NFL. But the NFL, even now, they've decided, well, we're going to have a game on Christmas every day. The NFL, for the longest time, surrendered Christmas to the NBA, and they look around, and about 3 years ago, they said, wait a second, who cares if Christmas is on a Wednesday? Let's play. Because they know that the money's just too big. And I've always said, people always will say this, and I try to tell the students this when I'm teaching them, hosting or what podcasting or whatever they're doing in the College of Journalism, that the minute you say money, don't worry about money. No. That's the number one priority at all times. When boosters have enough, the coach is gone. You even see this, and I'm not going to go down the path too politically here, but you saw it the last week. When donors have had enough and don't want to support, it's over. So it's all about the money line. And again, if you are the SEC and adding the 9th game can bring in $15 to $20 million per school a year over the course of a decade, Brett, that's $200 million. I mean, that pays for a third in a decade. Well, geez, think about this. $200 million every 10 years at $600 million, 30-year loan. I know it doesn't work that way exactly, but that takes care of all the renovations that are coming to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions on that for you coming up. Okay, so we know where we are. We know who the first team is. We know who the second team is. Carson Beck. We know that. What's interesting about this is the quarterback that I thought at the end of the year was playing the best in this conference is actually on the third team, right? Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
Etienne, the first team. I know it's going to make Gator fans kind of, but I mean, running back position is not as strong as it's been in this conference in the past. But still, he's on that team with that offensive line. Anything that came out of there, I know it's a different snake now. It's not East versus West. When it comes to the preseason, the fact that it's Texas and Georgia, it was Alabama third and
Yes.
fourth was
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss was fourth. If anybody, Ole Miss, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, if anybody rains on that parade, other than LSU, because I know LSU's right, who do you see sneaking into that top four and maybe being a 10th, 11th, or 12th seed come December?
Well, I would say maybe Missouri or Tennessee, depending on their defense. Now, LSU is actually number 5, but Seth, frankly, last year LSU's defense was abysmal, and when you talk to LSU beat writers, they would tell you this year it's not much better. That they've really improved their defensive coaching staff, but again, out of this group of LSU, Missouri, and Tennessee, LSU 5, Missouri 6, Tennessee 7. Whoever has the better defense may very well sneak up to number 5 and even get in the playoffs. This is going to be the great thing about this, and people are going to really realize about November is the 5th, 6th, or 7th team in the SEC. Why a year ago, no, there's no way. Who are we going to play in the bowl game? That's not it anymore. You've still got a chance if you can make a November run to actually get into the playoffs, particularly if you've got a strength of schedule. And my question, Seth, is how exciting could November be for several teams in this league?
Oh gosh, and again, you know, in years past, let's face it, 2 losses, it was a nail in the coffin, right? For the most part.
Yes.
2 losses was
Yes.
a nail in the coffin. There was a time that 1 loss was a nail in the coffin, but 2 losses was a nail in the coffin. So you lose your second game come October 20th, and you're sitting there at 3-2. You're done. Now it's like, okay, well, you're going to see 8-4 teams down there at times, and you may not like it, love it. I mean, okay, was the NFL playoffs any worse last year because the Chiefs lost 3 of the last 4 games?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So it's going to add a whole new level and layer of excitement. And I always get a kick out of Brett that people say, well, it's becoming too much like the NFL. It's becoming too much like the NFL. Oh, you want fewer teams? You only want to go back to the days where there's only 2?
Yeah.
What do you want out of this? Everybody wants fair. Everybody wants, I don't want to say necessarily equality, but everybody wants a chance. And this gives 12 teams a chance. Whereas, 12 months ago, only 4 had a shot. So and we can, I've always said this too, we can save on the pomp and circumstance that all these kids need to go to school. Oh, come on. I mean, let's face it. The playoffs are in December when everybody's out of class. So,
right.
I mean, yeah, holidays and all that. But the basketball team, this, Brent, I've had to go up to that radio station to get games up on Thanksgiving. So,
Sure.
Basketball games.
Sure.
So it is what it is. Again, PodUp with Matthews in the morning. He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp with you here on this Thursday, 25th day of July, 2024. Brought to you in part by Silverback Concrete. Firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. Stand by it. Also, Tropical Smoothie. Live a healthier lifestyle. The bold, flavorful smoothies and amazing food. Tropical Smoothie. When you eat better, you feel better. Okay, so we're going to wait for the rest of these conferences to lay themselves out in terms of predictions and what we see. The Big Ten, oh boy, rough start. Was it? Come on, Seth. He was running back there at UCLA. He's now coach.
Yeah, look, that may have been one of the most embarrassing things that really has happened in Deshaun Foster basically goes to the podium, the UCLA coach. I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, our football program, but we're in LA. It's us and USC. I'm just basically excited, really. Do you have any questions? Hey, he didn't think that through very much, did he?
Well, the worst mistake that you can make is anybody that's speaking to a group of audience is assume. It didn't seem to me that he didn't think that the audience was dumb. He just didn't think they didn't care. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's one of those things that you sell. It's your job to sell your program. Um, and it was bizarre. It was, and it was one of these things. It's like just wasn't a good look.
No.
And say what
No.
you want about USC and his struggles out there last year. I thought he did a nice job of selling Southern Cal, and he talked about Notre Dame maybe going off the schedule with the complexity of the new Big Ten schedule that SC is going to have. So it was just a juxtaposition of, you can see why UCLA is the stepbrother when it comes to college football in that city. Just because of the way that those press conferences with those two coaches couldn't have gone any differently. It was just
and see, here's the problem, Seth. Here's the problem with UCLA. I mean, when you step to the podium, and people will forget this pretty quick, but as you said, it's not a good look. And the reason it's not a good look is if you have a chance to maybe go in 2-10, which they probably do, a whole lot more than they would be even 500. Listen, you really just need to be straight as an arrow when you're in a situation like this, and just sell, as you said, sell your program and then sit down.
Looking at the dynamics of how everything is shifted here, and it has. We're going to see. It's still mind-boggling for me that SMU's in the ACC.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. We think Texas has a chance, good chance, to win the SEC. I'm trying to go around and wrap my mind. I mean, Oklahoma. Maybe if the stars align, Brett, I think they could make the playoffs if the stars align.
Yeah.
I'm going through other conferences and trying to think right now off the top of my head which ones newcomers have the best shot to win them. I think you and I probably both agree that it wouldn't surprise either of us at all if Washington, Oregon, or USC were in the Big Ten championship game.
Absolutely not. I agree totally. Look, there are a lot of people, Seth, that think Oregon could win the Big Ten.
Yeah. They could. I think you and I probably both agree that UCLA is coming nowhere near it.
No.
The Big 12, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado. I think you probably and I agree that Utah's got a shot at that side.
Yes. Yeah. Look, pretty much all the predictions that I've seen so far for the Big 12, they are predicting Utah to win. Yeah. And again, Whittingham is a tremendous football coach in a lot of ways. And by the way, Cam Rising is coming back. I think this is year 7, and if he wants to, Seth, there actually is a path that he could come back for like a year 8.
That's crazy.
It really is, isn't it? Yes. That's a good football team.
Than Bluto Blutoski, John Belushi in Animal House. I sit here and I look at this. The ACC. The newcomers are SMU, Stanford, Cal.
Yeah.
That the chances of that. I mean, any of those newcomers winning that, slim to none, right?
Right.
I sit here and I wonder, Brent, you tell me, good or bad for the game of college football? I'm going to lay out scenarios. The ACC, those newcomers aren't going to get there. What would it mean for college football to have an Oregon USC Big Ten championship game, a Utah Colorado Big 12 championship game, and an Oklahoma Texas SEC championship game?
Well, it would certainly be different, wouldn't it? I think, you would have a few folks who would complain because there weren't enough blue bloods in there, but you would also have a segment who would really be excited because there would be some new blood. So I think you'd have a mix, frankly. Now, I do think at the end, when we get to the Final Four, that a lot of those teams will be kind of what we're used to, frankly, meaning Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Florida State, something of that nature, right? But the excitement about the 12 teams is just basically what you said, is having some really different teams that may have a chance to get hot and go on a run.
He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp, in for Shane Matthews today on PodUp with Matthews in the morning. PodUp with Matthews in the morning on this Thursday, brought to you in part by Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. That's peachlanddental.com. Also, Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Check out comforttemp.com. I know this summer we're getting to the scalding 100-degree days, and you don't want that AC cracking out on you. No way, Jose. I know mine went out a couple weeks ago. Hallelujah, baby. Thank God that sucker's back. Thanks to Comfort Temp. All right, Brett. We're at halftime here. If Billy Napier has a seat that is warm, I want to know who's also playing this game of musical chairs with other warm seats in this conference. That's my question for you next, all right? He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp. This is PodUp with Matthews on this Thursday.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bill.
Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, Peachland Dental, QC Kinetics, Campus USA Credit Union, Dave & Buster's. Our gridiron sponsors, Sutter Pro Painters, Comfort Temp,
Florida Victorious,
UF Bookstores, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, F45. Our touchdown sponsors are Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, MG&A Wealth, Nest and Wild.
If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
PodUp with Matthews in the morning, moving along with you here on this Thursday, July 25th. Brought to you in part by several entities. You want a question for Brent? You want a question for myself? Fire away, courtesy of Facebook Live. Meldon Law, the only official law firm and accident partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube, got a question via YouTube. That can, grace us with his presence as well. Courtesy of Quality Plumbing, residential and commercial plumbing services and emergency repair since 1984. Also the Titan MRI text line hotline, 352-353-7465. That's 352-353-7465. And of course, myself and Brent with you on this Thursday, and PodUp with Matthews every day. Coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. ACC expansion, scholarship changes, got those for you as well. But I teased this, so I'm going to pay it off, Brent. Billy Napier's got the biggest spotlight on him in the SEC this year. In year 3 at Florida, Gator fans expect him to go above 500. Vegas has got that win total pegged at 4.5. So that's pressure. And
Yes.
I think we all agree if Billy finishes below 500, he probably is not going to be back. Okay. That aside, there's 13 other coaches in this conference, and, Vanderbilt, nothing is expected out of them. Brent Venables is in year 3, also right at Oklahoma. I'm trying to look around at other coaches that are in their 3rd year at their respective program.
I would say, Seth, that the other guy on the hot seat in the leagues is Sam Pittman at Arkansas, who they have struggled now. To his credit, now he may have just hired his successor because he brought in Bobby Petrino, who obviously was there before. And look, Petrino's grown up. He's got a tremendous football mind. I don't know if they would hire him if they fired Pittman, but he would certainly be right there on the staff. So that's a possibility. I think the rest of the guys, and you bring up a really good question here, but I think the rest of the guys, unless they had an absolute unmitigated disaster, would be there. Now, I'm going to throw something at you that, and I've been paying pretty close attention to the Big Ten meetings, and this sounds ridiculous, but it actually is true. Ryan Day at Ohio State, his record is like 56-8 overall, which anybody would give probably a limb to have a record like that. But here's your reality: if he loses to Michigan for a 4th year in a row, there is thought that in the Big Ten media days, there's a lot of talk, and this may just be talk, but that does he have to win? Because if he loses 4 in a row, would they fire him? Now, if he made up for it in a deep run into the playoffs, that would be one thing. But Sam, think about how ludicrous that is in some ways, but how realistic it is in others. That look, there are guys who may have as much or more pressure than Billy Napier does, and one of them would be Ryan Day, who has this enviable overall record. But you and I know, and we've been around some incredible rivalries in our life, like Alabama-Auburn and Florida-Florida State, that if Ryan Day loses again to Michigan, he could be out.
It's interesting. I was talking the other day about this with someone, and they wouldn't get Ryan. They can't get rid of him. I said, well, it wasn't that long ago, gang, that there was another coach there that averaged 9.5 wins per year over a 7-year stretch. 9.5 wins per year, a 7-year stretch. That's when we only had 11 games. So this dude was going 10-1 or 9-2 every year. And after a decade, they fired him because he was 2-8-1 against Michigan, and that was John Cooper.
That's right. Yes.
In the 90s, right? And
yeah, correct.
Look, it's one of his record. Brennan was ridiculous, wasn't it? Like 79 and 17 or something like that. They're out. It wasn't exactly that, but it was funny because half of his losses were to Michigan, or at least like 40% of his losses were to Michigan. So so there is precedent there at that school. It'd be interesting to see what direction they'd want to go in. And I know John Cooper hadn't been the coach there for 20 plus years, but they have done that before. There you go. Question for you, Brett. How do you think Moore will do as the next head coach at Michigan?
Well, look, they've got that's a great question. I mean, they've got talent coming back. I think he'll do fine. Now, do I think they'll go and do what they did last year? Obviously, I don't think they'll win the national championship, but I do think people are overlooking them. Frankly, I mean, they've got. Well, the problem is, and one of the reasons, as far as starters are concerned, believe it or not, and it depends on which roster you look at, they've got one guy coming back on offense and 4 guys coming back on defense. Unfortunately, that's not much, Seth. But the reality, too, because J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, we know all those guys who left. But I've still got to believe they've got enough, frankly, to where, that they're predicted to be third in the Big Ten. Now, that's not what Michigan fans want, but they are going to take a step back, probably just because they've got players, but they don't have the players with the experience that they need. They're not going 6-6 in the league, but you could see a 9-3. And if you win a national championship last year, obviously, couldn't you live with that, Seth, do you think, for a year?
Yeah, and look, it's going to be interesting because Alabama, it'll be interesting to see what, Alabama does, new head coach. Also, Michigan does, new head coach. Both of those teams, of course, gave us one of the better college football games we've seen in a while last year in the Rose Bowl. It'll be interesting to see both of those situations. What, like 9-3 will be viewed as, okay, the new coach, all right, here at Michigan. You and I both know if Alabama goes 9-3, be like, you better go 11-1 next year, So it'll be interesting to see how that plays itself out. Again, PodUp with Matthews in the morning. He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp with you here on this Thursday. Segment brought to you by Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help you and your life go in the right direction with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ograinsurance.com. That's OGRA insurance.com. New scholarship rules entering the chat. Brent, this came out late yesterday. Doesn't go into effect for this year, but it's going to change the dynamics of how many scholarships go to each sport.
Yes.
What you read? This came out yesterday afternoon about 3:00.
It did.
What's your read on this?
I think that the official vote is tomorrow.
Okay.
But they have approved now. This is important, and this is how things are changing. We have known for years that the roster limit for football scholarships is 85. Well, they're proposing that they're going to increase it by 20 and make it 105. Now, what we don't know yet is how this is going to affect walk-ons. They're proposing to increase for basketball. Now, this is the biggie here, and Gator baseball fans should do a victory dance over this. The baseball scholarships available would be 34. That's an increase of 22.3. Softball would be an increase of 13 to 25. Volleyball would be an increase of +6. So, Seth, above and beyond football, certainly for the sports that Florida excels in, at this point being particularly baseball, softball, volleyball, man, that's huge, frankly, for those teams in the additional support that they could get.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the other thing, too. When I saw these numbers, it jumped off the page to me, right? It's like when my car insurance bill came and they jacked it up, even though I haven't gotten a ticket, knock on wood, or anything. And I can't even remember the last time. It's like, the hell's my insurance going up $30 a month for? I didn't do anything wrong. So I see like the jump in scholarships. I'm like, you know what that means? That means everybody that sits there and tells you how valuable a scholarship is at the end of the day, and don't underrate scholarships. Oh, how valuable they are, Brett. When you can almost double them, they're not that valuable. They're not. You know what I mean? What I mean by that is an education is valuable. No. Yes. But the financial impact of a scholarship's not, and that all has to do with NIL.
Yeah. Right.
Did you get to the point that the girl that just got the $1 million NIL thing from Texas Tech? Okay, Brent, that is 30 semesters or 30 years at Texas Tech. She got 30 years of an education in her NIL deal.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's for an out-of-state student. In-state, it's even cheaper. So I sit here and I look at this and I say to myself, okay, well, you can get 30 to 1 your return on investment, or whatever you want to call it here in this case, the scholarships now they can play with them. They got so much more money. And this also is that TV arms race, the new deals, the $1 billion deals. It's like, well, what are we going to do? Well, let's just give away scholarships, man. Let's give away scholarships. Well, to me, it's not mean or cruel, but what it does is it shows you the impact of NIL, and
it does.
how decreased in value, not decrease in education, but decrease in value of a scholarship.
True. Agree.
Yeah, so there we are on that front. I know you got to get running here in a couple minutes. I know I really wanted to ask you this. The latest in the last week was ridiculous. I was trying to do a podcast on this, and every day it was like, well, Florida State and Clemson. It looks like the Big Ten's out. It's like they never were in. I mean, Florida State's dream, they were in the Big Ten, but the Big Ten's got this, love affair with, being part of the academic institutions, which means that Duke, North Carolina, and Miami and Georgia Tech are a better fit for the Big Ten than Florida State and Clemson. I'm sitting here, and then I saw Clemson and Florida State could go to the Big 12. And then they've got, Brent, they got 2 weeks to make up their mind if they're going to leave the conference or not. But, Brent, you and I both know if you're going to sell your car, you better have another one. You're not going to go anywhere. What's the latest on where what they are thinking is juxtaposed to the reality?
Well, I still think that FSU is going to the Big Ten, and it's really still a matter of time. Now, what Seth is talking about is there is an August 15th deadline that if you're going to be leaving the conference, you've got to let them know basically a year ahead of time. Now, if they don't make that deadline, and I'll throw Clemson in here too, that doesn't mean they're not moving. What this basically means is, and as astute as you are with business, you picked up on this immediately, I'm sure. What's happening here is they are still trying to get the money right, okay? They're still trying to come up with a settlement. And that can happen at any time. I don't think they're going to the Big 12. Look, if you're Florida State and the Big Ten has interest, and they do, that's where you go and you wait. And here's the thing, Seth. If the ACC is going to be careful about this, is if the ACC allows the courts to decide this in the end, they may get a lot less money than they want. So at some point, you make the compromise with FSU, you get some money, and FSU pays less money, and that's a win-win for both of them. And another important thing that you mentioned is the Big Ten is very high on AAU schools, and that's the basically the acronym or whatever for the elite schools that you go through a certain criteria in order to get to be called an AAU school. Now, FSU is working on that. And that my understanding is that's something that they're going to be able to achieve within the next, I'm not sure, 2 or 3 years. But the point is they're in the process of doing so. So what this means is we've still got time because the lawyers are doing their thing at this point. But FSU's made their desires known. I mean, they're going to obviously play in the ACC this year. I mean, they could even play next year, but I think within 2 years they will be out at that point. Now, Clemson is a possibility. Still think that at some point, and this is not going to happen immediately, but the North Carolina and another ACC school is going to the SEC. That's a possibility. And the other question is, and this is a discussion on another day too, would be, well, if Clemson and Florida State leave, what does the ACC do? Well, the schools that I've heard that they would be interested in would be South Florida and Memphis. Yeah. So, and look, are those schools FSU and Clemson? No. But at some point, you've got to fill the void, don't you, Seth?
Yeah.
And look, this thing could go any which way. Nothing would surprise us almost at this point. But but the point here is, if FSU and Clemson do not make a decision on August 15th, do not think at all that this is over.
He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp, PodUp with Matthews in the morning. I know I kept you a little bit longer. You said you had to get out of here. Brent, as always, I appreciate it. I guess I'm now the Craig Kimbrell or the Kenley Jansen or the whoever to close this thing out. So Brent, as always, man, thanks. I look forward to speaking with you here over the course of the next few weeks as we get ready again. The college football season officially less than a month away now, with Florida State and Georgia Tech kicking off on August 24th. So there we go. Hey, Brent, as always, man, appreciate the time.
Thanks, Seth, so much, bud. Always fun. Take care.
Here we go. All right. I got you. Carrying you home, baby. You got a question for me? Fire away via Facebook Live. Meldon Law, the official injury and law firm partner of the Florida Gators. You can fire away. Also, courtesy of Quality Plumbing, YouTube questions, and Titan MRI hotline, text line, 352-353-7465. That's 352-353-7465. Also, quick reminder, PodUp with Matthews in the morning is brought to you in part by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to your work and your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Again, I'm driving around my Lambo because of them. Boy, it's a yellow car. It's beautiful. If you ever see it around Gainesville, I'm the one in the yellow Lamborghini. Don't say hi. I'm too big of a star. So, but no, nonetheless. So there we go. All right, wrapping this bad boy up as we start to look ahead here. Again, you, Brett, and I talked a little bit about the scholarship situation. Wanting to add 20 more scholarships for football. I hate it. I love the addition of scholarships for baseball. I love the idea of scholarships for softball. Volleyball 6, I think, yeah, sure. But baseball, I think you could probably gotten away with 5 to 7 more. Softball, 5 to 7 more. Look, if you are playing in the SEC or you're playing at a D1 school, representing that school, you should have a scholarship. You should. If people really wanted competitive balance in college football, you'd reduce the number of scholarships. So how? Here's how, or here's why. The reason teams like Georgia, the reason that teams like Alabama have been so successful, it's the stockpiling of talent. It's the stockpiling of talent. It's the same reason in the NFL why you have 53-man rosters. You can't have 90 guys on your team. If you had 90 guys, 100 guys, 120 guys without a salary cap, you just load up and you never have to worry about anything. Bear Bryant did this in the 60s and 70s where he'd offer guys scholarships just to keep them away from Auburn. That doesn't happen anymore, as far as we know. But what this does, if you reduce the number of scholarships, Georgia gets a guy hurt. Okay, they got another 5-star guy waiting in the wings. If you really wanted to have competitive balance in college football, you'd reduce the numbers of scholarships. That's what you would do. And you would have to do about 5. Well, if they really, really cared. And look, there was a time that you're worried about the balance of scholarships. The fact that you really did almost double baseball, double volleyball. I talked about how it doesn't have the impact anymore. Oh, college education, when you can double something, didn't have the impact that it did. Don't undervalue an education. Meanwhile, we've got so many that we're just doubling them. Okay. It's like junk bonds. It's like when things start it's when, like in the 90s or in the mid 2000s, when somebody come in, I'm going to buy this house, I'm going to add some track lighting, and I'm going to repaint it and take out the carpet, and my $190,000 house is now selling for $300,000. It's like, it's not sustainable. It's not financially. The value of that doesn't add up. That's why you had the housing crash. And so you start to look around, and that if you really wanted to balance the sucker out, you'd reduce the number of scholarships. Dan writing in, will the scholarship increase make some small schools move down to division, like down to 1AA? Dan, they're talking about, it's a good question, actually. They're talking about having 3, essentially 1AA will become the new D2. they're talking about a split. So like the MAC, the Sun Belt, the American would be what the 1AA is now, right? But it's FCS, FBS, right? So I don't know exactly how that turn would work, but you'd have 3 tiers of Division One at FBS, FCS. There'd be a new one. It's a good question. The scholarship and how those roll out. But we've known forever scholarships are different. A scholarship at Stanford is different than a scholarship at Mississippi State. A scholarship at Vanderbilt is different than a scholarship at Arkansas. So there you go. Value of education, softball pitcher went from Stanford to Texas Tech. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's always funny that people think everybody thinks that their athlete is at their school for academics. I always give a kick out of it when schools publish their grade point average. Like, look at our grade point average. It's like, oh, congratulations. 99% of your fan base doesn't care. They don't. And, if I told you can win 2 national championships in the next 10 years, pick your school. If you're a Gator fan, whoever you are, you can win 2 of the next 10 championships, but you're going to be in the bottom 4 of the conference academics. Would you take it? Yeah. I would. Yeah. It's just how it works. That's why when any team, I always got a kick out of this. Like when USC was lighting up Notre Dame all those years with Pete Carroll, my Notre Dame, friends would always sit there and say, yeah, but at least academically, no, stop it. You don't care about that. You don't believe me. What was Brady Quinn's major? Come on. Jane Daniels just won the Heisman, right? What was his major? Don't care about the academics. Good try though. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Moving along. Shano will be back. Dan writing in the morning. Dan's pretty good today, Dan. Dan, I always appreciate intelligent contributions. I look at, interaction with you guys, and this is from my years ESPN, Fox, learning from, when it comes to hosting. I always appreciate people that can advance the ball, right? You take us from point A to point B to point C. Dan doing a good job. Urban Meyer years with all those arrests, those fans just point to the national championships. Yeah. And I was going to kick out of people that did Urban Meyer. I hate Urban Meyer. Oh, I can't help to notice that you're wearing a shirt with 3 national championship trophies. Yeah. Well, you count the trophies. I've always said this too. If you really wanted to, different discussion for a different time, when the NCAA is punishing schools and taking away their, national championships and their banners and the wins, take away the money that they made that year. That's how you'd end it. Think about that. Think about, when they took Reggie Bush's Heisman away in USC, they came out and said, all right, that year you went to the BCS championship game. That was a $9 million payout. Plus what else did you do? Oh, okay. You made $13 million in ticket sales. That would do this game. Okay. You owe us $40 million. Again, speeding tickets are a great deterrent to speeding. Auditing is a great deterrent to cheating on your taxes. There we go. All right. I got to thank everybody for chiming in today. Zach Rothrock back at the mothership, making sure everything was rolling along. Brent Beaird, of course, our college football insider. I'll probably be on one more time to give you, I'm not going to go through predictions quite yet when it comes to the upcoming season and what I think is going to happen and where we're going to be. Just know, Gator fans, just know, all right, am your beacon of reality. Last year, I said this team would go 5-7. Ta-da. Year before, I said they go 6-6. Ta-da. Wouldn't you like to know what I think is going to happen? Well, you have to tune into the Bar, Harp on Sports, my podcast. And you should be following me, by the way, at Harp on Sports Twitter, at Harp on Sports Instagram, following my show, The Bar, Harp on Sports, The Bar, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and, of course, Buzzsprout, Harp on Sports Facebook page, Harp on Sports YouTube channel, of course, harponsports.com. All right, thanks so much, Zach. For Brent Beaird, Seth Harp, Shane Matthews will be back in here tomorrow with JC. Enjoy your Thursday. Take care. And we'll talk to you soon. This has been PodUp with Matthews in the morning.